But I was too busy talking there, and I forgot the man's name. It's Henry Savage, farmer, man of the land, man who knows about things, and knows so much about things that Ulster Television put up their antenna. Wow! And they focus down on Henry Savage out in Cullyhanna. What sort of? What's the program that they're doing with you?
It's a program called Rare Breed.
Rare Breeds. Were you the rare breed, or is one of your creatures the rare breed?
Well, you see, this is what they're playing on. A rare breed of cattle and a rare breed of person.
Yeah. Well, you're a good person. You have a straight look to you, and you have a laugh. You have a laugh about you, and that's good. What sort of farming do you do, Henry?
Well, originally we were in beef, but then we went into sucklers about 17 years ago.
Yeah.
And then we started the limousines, and it went from there.
Yeah. That is great. And what's special about the limousine?
Well, the Limousin is known for the carcass breed. Very, very, very good carcass. All butchers want a Limousin type carcass because there's very little waste on them. And the good thing about it is that the good cuts of meat, there's lots of that. And that's what it's all about. If you take cattle into Newry, ABP to kill, they are going to produce very, very good carcasses for the butcher, and that's what the butcher wants.
Yeah. How do you stop them going to fat when you're raising them?
Well, with the Limousin, that's very easy because
it's in them not to go to fat.
Yes, it is.
A bit like myself.
Well, that's exactly it. You have other breeds like Hereford or Aberdeen Angus, and yet there might be a lot of talk about them. Yeah. But actually, they get very fat very quickly.
But they'd be better for milk, maybe.
Not really. No.
Have you heard about the Kobe beef? No. It's a Japanese type of cow.
Yeah, I have heard of it, yes, but I know nothing about it.
No, I don't either.
No, but I've heard that it's becoming
very popular.
Increasingly popular, yes.
Yeah.
But to be honest, I don't know enough about it.
Yeah, but there's hundreds of farmers have limousines. Why did UTV seek you out, and where's the rare breed element in it?
I think that, a couple of things. They were looking for some farmer quite close to the border. And we were only a mile from the border.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think that was one of the reasons. And then the producer, Veronica Cunningham, she's friendly with a friend of mine.
Oh, well, sure.
And I think that's...
You were a first stop. You couldn't have... You were convenient. And that was it. Let's get you in. Absolutely. How long have you been farming, Henry?
Well, I actually was a teacher.
Were you?
Yes.
Where did you teach?
Cullyhanna Primary School.
Cullyhanna Primary.
Yeah.
But you're the man we were talking about a wee while ago, Benny Loy, was the same.
That's how I knew Benny so well, But I always was farming.
It was a family farm.
Yeah, family farm. My father was a full-time farmer, and when he died, me and my brother continued to farm. And even though we were only doing it on a part-time basis, but then I have a family now, and so they're all interested in the farm.
Thank God for it.
Yeah, so they're all doing it, part time. They're all into other things as well.
Of course. Well, maybe that's the way it has to be with farming nowadays.
I think it is because basically, unless you have a very big farm,
10 miles of prairie.
That's
there,
right.
Yeah, with big machines that do all day mowing and whatever. It doesn't work otherwise.
It doesn't work, and South Armagh farms are small.
Small. How many head of cattle would you have?
Well, at the moment we have about 100.
100's all right. It's not too many. It's not too little.
Well, that's right.
Would you want more? Could you handle more?
I wouldn't really want any more.
No, it's enough.
No, it's enough for us at the moment.
And they're all for killing, are they?
No.
No, you have milkers in there as well.
No. Our cattle are for breeding.
Breeding.
Yes.
Lucky cattle.
When we produce a calf, if it's a heifer, it would be most likely kept on to breed on our farm.
And she would produce.
And she'd produce. Or if it's a bull, it's sold to a commercial producer who will use that bull to produce calves on his farm.
But I mean, there must be a big demand for that if you've got 100. Where would you farm the 100 out to?
We have 100 cattle, but not all of those will be sold into other farms.
Basically
every year we'd have 20 or 30 coming on. and they would be sold on, you know.
Yeah.
And we don't sell too many of the females. You know, we tend to keep most of the females.
Yeah.
Some of the females are sold, but a lot of the females are kept on. You know.
Yeah. Henry, it's kind of a double-barreled question now because. I beg your pardon. I've developed a little tickle this morning. I think the wet and the wind and all the rest of it, you know, coming running. As I train for the marathon, I come running up the Warren Point. What are you laughing at? He doesn't believe me, I tell you. Goodness gracious. But I've heard it said that modern cattle have developed an attitude that the farmer has got to be careful, that once upon a time you could have walked through the field and you would be totally assured nothing would go wrong, nothing could happen. But in a wrong situation, because of whatever's happened to cattle over the years, in a wrong situation with a bit of bad luck, a cow could be spooked or a bull could be spooked and you'd be done.
Well,
is there any truth in that?
Well, you know, when you're working with animals, you always have to be careful. But I think a big thing is that, you know, years ago, you know, farms were very small. There was a lot more contact between the cattle and the farmer, and so the cattle were used to the farmer. Nowadays, you know, a lot of farms, 100 maybe more cattle, you know, the whole thing's mechanized. The machine does most of the work. There's very little contact between the animal and the farmer, and the more contact there is, you know, then the quieter the animal becomes. We can see it ourselves. You know, we. When we're getting bulls ready for sales, you know, we have to tie them up and learn them to walk and so on for the sale or for the show. And you know, the ones that have got more contact, they are easier to work with. You know, the ones that have got no very little contact, they are a wee bit harder.
It's the way of nature, isn't it?
Yeah. So like, it's just, you know, the more contact that you have with animals, then the easier they are to work with.
Absolutely,
but you always have to be very careful. And you know, people talk about a bull. Really and truly, it's a cow that is just after calving is much more dangerous than a bull.
Yeah. Protect her own.
Yeah, everybody knows to watch out for the bull.
Aye.
But the cow that's after calving, she's protective of her young baby calf.
Of course.
And she's much more likely to protect it and hurt you in the process. In the process.
Listen to me. What time in the year do you put them out, and what time of the year do you take them in? Well,
we try to put them out. Some of them out as early as we can, and that means the first week of March. Cows with young calves, you know, we like to get those out as quickly as we can. We'll go to a dry field with a bit of shelter, and even if you only put one or two in the same field, we try to get some out at the beginning of March.
And would they be eaten fresh, or would you be feeding them silage?
When they go out onto the field, they'll be getting a wee...
In March?
In March, they'll be getting a wee bit of meal, but they'll be basically eating
on the grass.
On the grass. We will be very, very careful not to put out too many. One or two in every field. That's a wee bit labour intensive.
But you must have lots of fields.
But yeah, well, no, it's dry fields we need.
Of course.
You have to go onto a dry field. And you know, there's some fields that will work on, and there's some that won't. But you have to have a dry field, and a dry field normally in March there's good grass. You know, whereas a wet field is not.
Because in wet field is a curse. Is that something that putting drainage in would sort out?
Well, sometimes yes, but other fields are just heavy soils, take longer to dry, and you know it's into April, May before you've really dry land, you know. But then there's other fields that are, you know, maybe rocky base or sandy soils that drain easily, drain freely, and they are great, you know, for getting cattle out very early. But then in the other end, you know, we try to keep some of them out as long as possible. And again, we do the same sort of thing, pick the dry fields, keep grass on them till later on in the year. Like
many cuts would you have in a year?
Two.
Two
cuts,
When would you cut first?
Well, we try to cut the end of May, very beginning of June. That's the first cut. And then, you know, first week of July, second cut.
How long does it take, Henry, for the cut to become silage?
Basically 7-8 weeks.
And do you have to put a sort of catalyst in to get it started?
Yeah, normally when we cut silage, you know, we put slurry out immediately, you know, and then within a fortnight we put artificial fertilizer on as well. So, you know, you try to get that done as quickly as possible, 10 days to a fortnight after you cut the silage. And then, you know, 8 weeks, 7 to 8 weeks later, you should have a good crop. Every year is different. Some years, if it's very, very dry, you mightn't have that good a crop. Or if it's very wet, it can be the same. You know?
I remember driving through Kerry once, right out by the Healy's place in Kerry, the politicians down there. And I remember, it just was very funny. The bales were in the field and they were wrapped in black plastic.
Yes.
And across the thing was "Feck off, crows." Feck off, crows. That was it. Oh, gee whiz.
Yeah.
But so you farmed all your. You grew up on the farm.
Oh,
your parents were farmers.
Yeah.
And there before them.
My father was a farmer, and his father, and the farm was passed down. You know.
Were you the first to go to the teaching, or to go out of the farm?
Yeah. Well, a brother of mine, he was the same. He was older than me, and he became a teacher as well.
Teacher as well.
Yeah, two of us.
And what did you teach? It's a dangerous question to ask that, because I remember once there was a retired teacher from a school in Newry, and he was well into his retirement. He had a big beard on him, and he was in P.G. O'Hare's pub in Warren Point, and he was looking over the top of the pint, and the beard was wet with the guy. I says, "What did you teach?" He looks, he says, "Boss." That's what he said, absolutely. But I did a bit of teaching in my time, and I loved it, but it was exhausting. And you found this, you know, what subjects did you teach?
Well,
was it primary?
Initially I taught in St. Pat's in Mahara, and I taught Irish.
Wow.
To GCSE level.
Terribly dirty footballers. You're famed for it. Famed for it. But the things you did to the poor Abbey on occasions and whatever.
So I taught there from 1980 to 1983.
So there were big lads you were teaching?
Yeah. Well, from 11 to 16.
Yeah, but they feed them up there. They feed them limousines up there. Big lads. That's what I mean. Oh, dear.
Excuse me.
So...
Then I got a job locally in Cullyhanna.
Yeah.
And I taught in primary school there for the next 29 years.
I was telling you, my mate's buried out in Cullyhanna, Benny Loy from Dorsey.
Yes.
Benny and I worked together.
Yes.
He was a film editor. He's also a teacher. Yes. Benny was an architect. A remarkable man.
Yeah.
Broke my heart when he died.
Yes.
Really, he was very well regarded. Very well
he was.
respected.
Yeah, Benny was.
Would have done anything for anybody.
He would. That's right.
You know.
That's right.
An amazing.
Very able.
Oh, God Almighty, amazing man altogether.
Yes.
So the farming, then you more or less back to the farming full time now. The teaching is finished.
Yeah. Yes. I left teaching last year.
Yeah.
And I really always wanted to farm, you know, and so I came back. But listen, I farm, but the boys are a very important part of our business. My sons, you know,
yes, yeah.
You know, they're at home every evening.
Of course,
and, you know, they help me. And
how old are they?
Well, they're from 16 to 26.
Sure, that's a grand age group.
Yeah,
that's great. How many have you got?
5 boys.
5 boys. I had 5 girls. Honest to God. I wasn't eating enough limousines. That was it. I tell you. But it's great, isn't it?
Yeah, it is great.
It's lovely. Yeah. But I mean, that's a grand. They were made for the farm, you know.
Yeah,
but I might stop at Rowan. That's a sexist thing to say. Women farm as well nowadays, for goodness sake. Yeah.
There's one of them now has no interest in it, or very little interest in it. But the other 4 are very keen on it.
That's good, isn't it?
Yeah, that's
you ever in the farm? You're not so bad. You have 5 there, 4 there with you doing the business. But it seems to me, if you're looking out across the verdant pasture lands of Cullyhanna and seeing your farm stretching to the horizon, or wherever how far it goes, do you ever look and say, "Oh, geez, how am I going to do? There's so much to do here. That field isn't dry enough. It needs drained. Blah 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 blah." That there's a mountain of work ahead of you.
Yeah, but
and you feel at times, "How am I going to get through it?"
No, well, so you know, you just do what you can do.
Day by day.
Yeah, that's right. Like, you know, there's always plenty of work to be done. That's the thing about a farm. You're never going to run out of work.
But nowadays, as you say, you have more machines.
More machines, you know, and that makes it a lot easier, you know.
Benny's very, very dear friend, Mrs. Herty, her son had developed an agricultural business where he was building machines to do everything. And everything in it. Is that still going?
Still going.
Thank God.
Going very well, in fact.
That's great, isn't it?
You know, it's great to see it, you know.
They were civil people.
Yes.
Is Mrs. Herty still there?
Sorry?
Mrs. Herty still there?
No, Mrs. Herty died.
Ah.
Yeah. quite recently.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, she died quite recently.
She was a total lady.
Yeah, she
and
was.
loved Benny Loy as though he's one of her own.
Yeah, that's right.
That's the nature of the woman. Yeah.
She was very highly respected lady
Oh,
now.
God, aye. But you're listening to me. It was no wonder that Benny died. I told you this, I'll tell the people this because it's a lovely story about Benny. I'd be out with Benny we were doing editing in his house in Dorsey. We'd be doing the editing, and lunchtime would come, and Benny would say, we'll go for the lunch. We'll go for the lunch. I said, okay, Benny, where will we go? We'll go into the Listoo. And we'd go to the Listoo, and we'd walk along the car. Benny on a plate had like that of grub at lunchtime. Then we'd continue back. We'd be back by 2:30, and we'd be editing away, and I'd be going home at 6 o'clock, and the phone would ring. It was Mrs. Herty. She'd say, Benny, your dinner's ready. And she would take him down and give him his dinner.
Yes.
Sure, he was been fed 2 dinners a day and maybe more. Amazing.
I know.
Amazing man.
Yes, yes.
So is it with farming, not being a farmer, but I have this notion that it's hard work, but it's a kind of romantic business where you lean on the 5-bar gate and look at the setting sun. Do you get time to do that?
Well, there's always a bit of time on the farm, but you do have a busy day. There's always something to be done.
And that day begins very early.
Well, it does. Yeah. Well, we normally start around 7 every morning.
Yeah.
And earlier if you have something else.
And is there in normal circumstances, what's the beginning of your day at 7? Is there a pattern?
When I get up at 7 o'clock in the morning, the first thing is to go and check the cattle, feed
in the fields.
In the winter time, they're in the house at the moment now. The first thing is to feed the cattle and make sure that everything's okay, and that's the number one priority every morning.
And what might make it not okay? How would the cattle suffer between dusk the night before and dawn the following day?
Well, when you have cows and calves, number one, you have cows that might be calving.
Ah, yes.
So if you have a cow that's going to calve, well, you have to be up early to make sure
it's all
nothing has happened during the night. Also, especially when calves are very young, from they're born until they're a month or 5 or 6 weeks old, you have to constantly watch them, because when they're in the house, they're not in their normal environment.
No.
If they're out in the field, you tend to be disease-free.
Yeah.
In the house, a lot of cattle together, a lot more disease.
Breath and the heat and the...
Exactly. So there's a lot of ammonia, scars, and so on. So you have to be constantly very alert, because if you miss for 12 hours, that could be too late.
Yeah, of course.
So you just have to be constantly on the alert. And then it takes time to feed the cattle, and especially with our cattle, especially the better ones, they're being individually fed.
Wow.
We don't just put them in a pen of 7 or 8 cattle, which you would normally do with commercial cattle. We can't do that. Any bulls that are for sale in the next couple or 3 months, they're all in pens on their own, and they're being individually fed. So that takes longer as well.
I know. They're in and they've been specially treated and all the rest of it, and the whole thing is an ongoing kind of a roundabout of effort, of constancy of effort by the farmer. Now I haven't farmed, as I said to you, but I've delivered a calf.
Have you? Very good. Right.
Up at Violet Hill College, when I knew the lad, the first ever, it was very funny, the first ever tree I took down with a chainsaw was standing between 2 blocks of garages up at Violet Hill College.
Right.
And I had the chainsaw, and off I went, and I looked at it, and I hadn't quite, then the boss came out and he looked, and he said, oh, is it okay? I said, it's okay. So I got a couple of fellas in who knew a wee bit more about it than me, and we took the tree down. But I got to know the farm manager there at that time, and the cow was calving, and a wee bit of trouble, so we had to, we had the rope on the back legs as it was coming out, and time the pull in rhythm and harmony with the contractions and all the rest of it.
Yes.
I was a genius. I couldn't. So if you're ever stuck...
We send for you some
If you're
more.
ever stuck, and only the good ones you would be bringing me to, I tell you. That's like the woman when they're introducing what do they call it, the artificial insemination, which was the grand thing. There was an old widow out in Camla, she lived on the side of the mountain, and the man from the ministry came for the artificial insemination, and she says to him, now you're welcome, will you take the cup of tea now, or will you wait till the job's done? I says, I'll get the tea in a minute. She says, well, now, she's out there in the back byre. And she says, there's a door there with a hook. You can hang your bits and pieces there. She wasn't sure what was going to be done. The man from the ministry, I tell you, goodness gracious. But it's a happy community, is it, the farming community? The farmer and the cowman are friends. Are you all? It's all good out there.
You know?
Yeah.
And, you know, there's so many different times when you meet up with different people, you know, going to sales and different things that you go to, you know.
Of course.
And that's a big thing as well, meeting people that you maybe haven't seen for a while.
Would you still do the deal like that, and the spit on the hand and the clap on the hand?
Well, yeah.
Would it ever happen?
Yeah.
Would it?
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah, definitely.
I remember it. God, in Newry Street Market, when they brought the cattle in over the years.
Yeah. We actually would sell some cattle, you know, quite a few cattle at home, you know.
Yeah.
Men would come if they're looking to buy a bull or a heifer, you know, and we'd sell quite a few from
You do
home.
it at the door and you stand, you'd deal and you would do it and whatever else. And
exactly. Whatever you have to do.
That's Sarah coming in through the door. Don't even look at her. But she's been very, very good. Do you know what I'm going to tell you? She came up with a gem when she got you to come in here and talk. She was kind of, he said to me at the beginning, is this going live? I said, yeah. You've been in San Francisco, you're in Australia, you're in Mayo Bridge, you're everywhere. You're big in Ballyholand as well this morning, I tell you. So if any of you cows in Ballyhole need a good Limousin bull, we got them here for you, I tell you. It's all good. It's all good. But we wish you well. And you'll be able to get this. It goes out again. You get it at home on the computer, on the internet.
Okay.
But farmers nowadays, do you lay land aside for wildflowers and things like that? Do you do any of that set aside? No. I feel a no coming on here.
We were in a countryside management scheme up until last year, but unfortunately they didn't continue it. You know,
they're cutting back on the money, and there's a row now over the new CAP funding.
Yes,
where the CAP funding is cutting back on the amount of money that is it Gildernew? Who's the minister?
Michelle O'Neill.
Michelle O'Neill. The money that she wanted to give to the set aside, and it's not happening. But anyway, she'll work it all out.
It'll come round again, you know.
As King Billy said to King James after the Battle of the Boyne, when James was sitting down on the stone at the river, and Billy looked down. Kindly fellow was Billy, kindly fellow. He looked down, he saw him, and he thought he was going to kill himself in the river. And he went down on the horse and he climbed off and he went up to James. He says, "Look, James," he says, "don't you worry. I know we've wrecked you, I know we've destroyed you, I know we've wiped you out. But listen to me, it could be worse. And don't worry. Sure, in a week or two's time, there'll not be a word about it." Oh, God bless you. Hey, go well. Henry Savage, God love you, and thank you for coming in.
Thanks very much.
Play the man some music, sir.